All right. Now remember, anything you don't want to say,
I'll say it.
just tell me.
Okay.
Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, blink. All right, I am here with Rachel Ortiz. I'm drinking wine, she's drinking
Water.
I tried to get her to drink wine. So, Rachel, I've interviewed a bunch of people. This started out interviewing people who have businesses, and I wanted to talk to them about their problems with their business and how they're resilient. And what I quickly found out was a lot of these business owners, they had a story about personal problems, personal challenges, not problems, and a lot of it had to do with sick. I've interviewed people who had, not level 4 cancer, what is it called? Stage 4 cancer, and they're cured. And so when I heard your story, which I'm going to just sum up very quickly, and you're going to tell, can we say what your age is today?
Yes, I'm 66.
And what year were you diagnosed?
I was on my 27th birthday.
You were diagnosed with?
Multiple sclerosis.
And
Chronic progressive.
And you can explain that. And at some point after that, you were actually bedridden. I mean, it got worse to where you were bedridden.
Yes, I was bedridden for 5 years.
And today, so I know you really about a week and a half. I'm dating a girlfriend, but it's the first time we've actually met. And last week, the three of us were out building a deck in the backyard. Nobody would ever know that you have MS. So do me a favor, first just tell me about when you were getting the diagnosis, because you had symptoms.
I did. I had my hands, I was going to college. My hands felt thick and heavy, and I was dragging my feet.
Okay.
And I just felt, it started, my middle finger started tingling, the tips, and then it just went up. And it stopped like right here on the top of my arms. That was on both hands.
Wow.
And so I went for a checkup, and they took a long time out. They were checking me out for 2 years, and they couldn't find what was wrong with it.
2 years, they were
2
running
years.
tests.
I was going to the doctor weekly because something was wrong.
Over those 2 years, were you getting worse?
Yes, and I knew that I was getting worse. And I had a 3-year-old son. I've got 3 kids, but he was the baby. And so, but I feel that thinking back that I've had this when I was in school, but we just never went to the doctor. We just didn't. But as I got older, and I was in an abusive marriage the first time. I've been married twice. And so, I knew that I had it then. Something was wrong.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to the doctor. When I got married the second time, then I went to the doctor. And on my 27th birthday, they gave me a spinal tap, and they sent that to UCLA, California. When they came back, they called me and told me to come to the office. Okay, we went. My sister and I went. And
Susie?
no, our older
sister, okay.
And so then he told me, sit down, and I thought, it's bad news. I mean, he called me at 5 o'clock. That's closing time.
Oh, yeah.
At the office. And so we were sitting there, and he said, you have multiple sclerosis. We found out what's wrong with you. And I said, what? I had MRIs, everything done.
Yeah.
The whole works, blood work, whatever, x-rays, all of that. And I was told that I had multiple sclerosis. I knew it was bad. I didn't want to know anymore. I didn't want to know because I've got kids. They need me. And I didn't want to know the symptoms or any of that. I didn't want to know anything.
Did he try and say this is what you're going to expect?
Yes. And I didn't want to hear it.
Wow.
I don't want to hear it because I didn't want my mind to say, well, you're supposed to be in a wheelchair. He told me about wheelchair. I said, no, I didn't say, I was like numb. I didn't want to hear it. I knew it was bad. My sister took it harder than me. She knew what it was. And she said, and you're going to, and all this stuff. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know. If whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I was expecting something to happen, but I didn't want to know wheelchair, bedridden, you might die, and all of this stuff.
Right.
I have children. So then after they told us that, we left the office. And she was crying. I wasn't crying.
Were you more in shock?
I was numb to it. I really did. I knew something was wrong. I was just happy to know that somebody found out what was wrong.
Really?
I didn't know what it was, I've never heard of it.
Oh, you never heard of MS?
Nah, I didn't know,
Okay.
and I didn't want to know.
Okay.
Whatever's going to happen, if I'm going to be in a wheelchair, then it's going to happen. You know, I didn't want to hear. I didn't want to hear. I thought maybe it won't happen to me. I don't know. I was in denial. So when that time did come, and the symptoms were just getting worse.
Yeah.
And I was going to the doctor weekly, and it became more, and then they told me that I had chronic progressive.
What does that mean?
Bad. That is, and it's going bad. It's progressing, and it's getting bad.
And what were your symptoms at that time? Because you had.
I didn't have balance.
Oh wow.
I didn't have balance. I didn't feel drunk. I just didn't have balance, and I was getting worried. And I thought, well, okay. And so then they had a program, because one of the newsmen in our town was diagnosed with MS. So they said, well, you should go to the meetings and all this stuff. I didn't want to go. I didn't really want to know, because I didn't want to know what's up ahead. I thought, well, if it comes, it does good. I mean,
yeah.
It wasn't good, but you know, I didn't want to hear. So then they measured me for the wheelchair, and I got a nice wheelchair. The first time, the first time I got an Impala wheelchair. The second time I got a Cadillac one. Man, it was real nice. It was all cushiony. But I noticed that my feet were bouncing. You know, they were bouncing, and I couldn't be still. They were just like, I started getting stuff like, things like that wrong with me, and I knew that that's not normal. Then they got to where I couldn't even use a pencil. I didn't have the strength, so I would hold it like this and just put an X there, because I didn't have the strength. And I was going to school. I had to get out of school because I just had to. And so I got the wheelchair and all that. And then, you know, I thought, well, people used to see me out there active and all that. Now they see me in a wheelchair. And I was on steroids. I was on a lot of medicine. I was taking like 51 pills a day altogether, like morning, noon, and night. It was for depression, eating, blah, 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 everything. Steroids and all that. And I gained a bunch of weight. I weighed 180 pounds when my weight is 120. I've never been over that. But I was that time, and I was depressed because of that, you know, and I thought, what, I'm blowing up. Nobody knows who I am. They used to see me out places, hey, and then they didn't know who I was anymore, and I'd be in a wheelchair. Then I accepted it, but I just didn't want to die. I bought a house, and I lived right behind the hospital because I knew something bad was going to happen that way. My children could run up there and see me.
Wow. And,
you know, go back home. Well,
wait, you bring up your children. Let me ask you, what were they asking? What were they saying to you? Were they saying, Mom?
What's wrong?
Yeah.
Mom, something's wrong. But I'm not going to explain to them. They couldn't. They were young.
Yeah.
What could they do?
Yeah.
But I still, you know, they went to school. Everybody went to school. I tried to keep it as normal as possible. I was in a wheelchair, but before then, I asked for a wheelchair because I was crawling. I was crawling to the bathroom, like at night. I was crawling because I didn't have balance. So I had so much help when I went to that MS meeting. Then I was on TV. They interviewed me. Okay, so I spoke and I said, yeah, because everybody else was asleep.
Yeah.
There, they had, you know, they looked bad, and I thought, I don't want to look that way. I still had my makeup on and stuff like that. I wanted to not, you know, it was already bad. I was trying to be as normal as possible.
Sure. At what point did you become bedridden?
Oh gosh. Soon after, when I found out, I'll say within about 5 months.
So you went from standing up, going to the doctor, standing up, to a wheelchair.
Yeah, but I was holding on to my sister and holding on to the walls. People thought I was drunk. They would tell me at the grocery store, that lady's drunk.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't have balance. I was holding on to the basket. I didn't have a wheelchair yet. And then I went into the hospital for experimental treatment, Dr. Skripka.
Wow.
And he said he had 4 people in Abilene, and he was that were real bad with MS. So he picked me and the other ones. And what it was chemotherapy.
Really?
Yeah, so I went into the hospital, and they did 5 cycles of it. And each time I had to stay in the hospital for about a week each time. And it was terrible. My veins were collapsing, and I mean, you know, I was just...
This is how long into the...
This was about under a year.
Under a year?
Yeah,
wow.
it went quick. And so we had that done, and I was just doing everything what they wanted me to do. I went to swimming therapy, I didn't have balance, I got horse therapy, I got everything, and everything that they told me to do, I did it. And, you know, and I still was telling myself it's not going to happen. Even though it was happening. I was saying, no, it's, nothing more is going to happen, and it was.
But there's one other part that I don't, only because we already spoke a little bit about this. You're saying that, you were saying that this, you didn't want to know, but besides that, your faith is very strong. Yes,
I would pray, and I was arguing with God. He could have put me down at that time. I would argue with God. I said, God, pick somebody else. You don't want me, God. I was raising my voice at him like I said, God, it's me again. Rachel on Grape Street. Like he doesn't know where I live. And I said, God, it's me. I said, you know, I can't leave my kids. Nobody's here to take care of them. You don't want me, God. Because I got a letter, and it wasn't meant for me, but it was. I mean, it's just how coincidental.
So explain that. You told me before, you got a letter.
Yeah, but it wasn't for me. It was for another doctor, but they sent it to me by accident. They sent it to me, and I read it, and it said she's going downhill and she's going fast. And I thought, really?
So wait, was it about you? But
yes.
Somebody else was supposed to get it.
Yeah. And I opened it, and I read that, and I thought, I just put it aside, and I thought, well, they know. I don't think they know what they're talking about. I said, God.
Yeah.
And I said, you don't want me, God. You know, I know that, you know, don't let me get worse. I can't leave my kids. So, I mean, you feel desperate because you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I knew God knew what to do.
And that went on for 5 years, you said?
Yes. I was bedridden for 5 years. And one day I just said, God, your will be done. So, your will be done. I just threw in the towel, and I thought, well, and I said, because I know you're going to watch my kids. Man, the sun came out. The sun was shining on me. Within a few days, people were knocking at my door saying, well, you know, this lady came and brought me a scooter. I already had 2 wheelchairs, but then she brought me a scooter. I mean, they were just, I didn't even call these people.
Yeah.
I didn't. And so I was getting all kinds of help, and they were trying to but I would always attend the meetings. Then they had a meeting for people, low-income people, to buy a house. All you had to do was attend. So I went to that. I went in my wheelchair. And it was every Tuesday for a month for 2 hours. I said, okay. So I would call the little bus, it'd pick me up in a wheelchair, and I'd go over there and all that stuff. Well, I became a homeowner.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. All you had to do, they would pay for it, and I was in the paper again.
Really?
Yeah, with my kids, all happy and stuff. I bought a house.
So this is after you said, God, your will.
Yeah. I mean, the curtain opened and the sun came in.
Okay, I got to ask about that. You're like the third person who told me that. Like they were at wit's end, and they finally said, God. So where does that come from? Where does your faith come from? I mean, is it from your mom?
No, it's from... We were brought up, yeah, but you're tested. You're tested to see if you really do believe. I believe, just like Abraham, he was going to put his kid on the fire.
Yeah. And
God said, no, I believe you now. That's happened to me. That happened to me, literally. Good things started happening to me. I was going to therapy and doing everything what I could. I went to rehab. They took my license away for 10 years. I'm going to continue. I'm going to, because I know God has this. He's got a plan for me. I don't know what it is, but I'm still going to do this because I've got kids and I'm going to do what's right.